Hello again, this is Instructor Williams. I am the Technology Instructor for the Antioch Public Library District. I'd like to thank you for watching our YouTube channel today. Our objectives for today are to tour the PowerPoint screen, to create and edit a new PowerPoint file, and to save our document. Touring the screen. So the first thing we want to do is open up PowerPoint 2016. So I'm going to come down here to the Start menu, and I'm going to click on the PowerPoint 2016 card. If you do not see the card here, you can see all of the programs on the left-hand side arranged in alphabetical order. So we would just need to scroll down until we found P. And then under P, we have PowerPoint 2016. We can click on that once, and it opens up our PowerPoint program. Since we are creating a new PowerPoint file, we're going to work with a blank presentation, which should be the first one in the top left of this area. We'll double click on that. And now we are in our brand new PowerPoint presentation file. Like all other Microsoft programs, PowerPoint is accompanied at the top of the screen by what they call a ribbon. And it is a series of quick commands that help us create our PowerPoint presentation. The contents of the ribbon are dictated by whichever tab at the top that we select. We have a series of words. In the red area, we have File, Home, Insert, Design, Transitions, Animations, Slideshow, Review, and View. Those words in that colored area are known as tabs. If you click on one, it changes the ribbon to have elements and commands that are pertinent to that term. For example, we clicked on Design, and so all of our commands in the ribbon are related to designing our PowerPoint. If I clicked on Insert, everything would change and all of the commands would be related to inserting something into our PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to start with Home and briefly go through the different contents of the ribbons. What you'll notice in the ribbon is we have these light gray lines dividing little sections in the ribbon. And those little sections are called groups. And the small dark words at the bottom of each section tell you the name of that group. For instance, here we have the clipboard, which gives us the commands to paste, cut, copy. We have slides group, and that deals with the layout and the formatting of the slides. Then we have the font group, and that deals with how the text or the font in our presentation will look. We have the paragraph group, and this will determine how a body of text will look. We have the drawing group, where we can draw images and designs, and we can rearrange them. And then we have an editing group, where we can find and replace phrases, and we can make selections for phrases, and so on. Then in our Insert tab, we have all of these groups related to inserting something into the document. For example, this very first one, called Slides, gives us the option to insert a new slide into the presentation. Tables allows us to insert a table into a slide. Images allow us to bring pictures into the slide, whether they're pictures on the computer itself, pictures found on the internet, or a screenshot that we've taken, or pictures from a photo album that we have. Next group, we have illustrations, and that's where we can insert different shapes and what they call smart art. And if you hover over the smart art area, a little description pops up. So what is smart art? Smart art graphics range from graphical lists and process diagrams to more complex graphics, such as Venn diagrams and organization charts. Next up in illustrations, we have the chart function. This makes it easy to spot patterns and trends in your data by inserting bar, area, or line charts. A lot of times you can create a chart in Microsoft Excel and then import that chart over to PowerPoint presentation. Then we have add-ins, which are things that we can bring in from the Microsoft Store or personal add-ins. We have links. This is hyperlinks and action links that can connect to parts of the internet. Comments can be inserted when it's a collaborative work and during the process you're communicating back and forth with each other with a document, and you have one person who's the main editor and formatter, so the other team members can add comments to say maybe we should change this or change the look of that. Then we have the text group, and this deals with bringing text into the document. We can create text boxes, headers and footers, word art, can insert the date and time, we can insert slide numbers, and we can even insert objects. Next up is symbols. Sometimes if we're doing a technical or scientific presentation, we might need to bring symbols into it that are not found on a typical keyboard, so we can use the symbols function to insert the appropriate symbols. Then we have media. We can also insert small videos into our PowerPoint or audio. We can even do screen recordings, which are very handy if we're creating a PowerPoint that's going to be designed for playback in a multimedia setting. Our next tab is Design, and we looked at that earlier. It deals with the design of our PowerPoint presentation. So this first group is the biggest one by far, called Themes, and what that does is determine what the slide looks like for the presentation. We can make it as generic as possible. We can add some flair to it with colors and different thematic designs. Then over here we have variations. So if I choose a design here, we can come over here and look at the different variations of that particular design. So we can make small changes to the overall setup. And then we have Customize, where we can slide the size of it. We can format the background differently. Next up we have Transitions. And this deals with how one slide transitions to the next slide. So in our group we have Preview, we have Transition to this slide. So if I click on Reveal, it goes through an entire slide animation. You can do random bars, do a cover slide, a flash slide. You have plenty of examples for that. Then after that is timing. If we are automating our PowerPoint, we can choose whether or not sound accompanies that transition, how long that transition is going to take, whether or not we want to apply that particular transition to all of our slides, or if we want to advance the slide manually, we can say move on mouse click, or after, and then set a time frame, say after 60 seconds. So transitions deal with the moving from one slide to the next slide en masse. The next tab is Animations, and this deals with how the images and the text inside a particular slide show up. So if I add text here, I can choose to have those texts animated and brought in. So I can highlight the text, click Wheel, highlight this text, and click Swivel. So when I go to play the slide, we see the animation of the actual text itself coming onto the slide. There we go. And that's what animation does. We can do some advanced settings for the animation. We can add our own. We can animate the entire pane. We can set up a trigger for when it animates. And then we have timing. Once again, we can manually do it with on-click. We can also choose to have some of the text come in with the previous text or after the previous text. We can choose a duration, how long it comes in, a delay, how long it waits before it comes in. And then we can reorder the animation if we wanted. So if maybe we wanted the subtext to come in first and then the main text to come in after, we can choose to reorder that. The next tab is the slideshow, and this deals with the presentation of the slideshow itself. We can start from the beginning, we can start from the current slide, we can present it online, and we can do a custom slideshow, and that's all under the group called Start Slideshow. The next group is called Setup. We can set up the slideshow. We can hide certain slides. So maybe we're doing a presentation in different contexts and certain slides are more related to one context but not the other. We can hide those slides in the context where it's not relevant, and the slideshow will skip past those particular slides. We can do rehearse timings if we really wanted to be on point and perfectly time our presentation for a professional setting. Say we're only given 20 minutes. We can go through a rehearse timing so that we can get our timing in the presentation down the way it needs to be. We can also record the slideshow, and this will allow us to create a video of our slideshow presentation that we can send to others and they can play it through a media player. We have the option to play the narrations, to use timings, to show media controls, and then finally the monitors, that we can choose how it shows up on each monitor. Because if we are using PowerPoint on a laptop and it's going to be hooked up to another computer monitor for the audience to see, we might want to set the monitors up to display differently so we as the presenter will maybe know what is going to be on the next slide so we can mentally prepare for it while everybody else is still looking at the previous slide. Our next tab is Review, and a lot like Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and even Publisher, Review helps us start tweaking the fine-tuned elements of our presentation. We can check our spelling, we can check a thesaurus, we can do smart lookup, we can check languages if we needed to do a translation of it. We can choose to add comments if we're working collaboratively. We can show those comments or hide those comments. And compare. We can compare changes that maybe an editor's made and say, hey, I want to keep those changes, or no, I want to go back to the original. Compare allows us a lot of control in the editing process. And then inking. If we wanted to know what inking is, we would just hover over it and a card would pop up. Add freehand pen and highlighter strokes to your document. So if we had maybe a trackpad, that's one of those digital pads where we can have a digital pen and we can draw on it or write on it, and the text will show up on the slide. So those are all of the groups and elements for the Review tab. And then finally is the View tab. And in the View tab, it allows us to look at the document as it's a work in progress, what it's going to look like on the screen. So currently we have normal view, and what that is that the current slide we're working on is large up front and center in this right area, but then we have almost like a table of contents on the left of all the different slides in their sequence. If we wanted to, we could choose to outline view, and then everything on the left hand side is going to be broken down into an outline with bullet points and numbers. We could do slide sorter, which gives us all the slides in a particular format. We could do a notes page where we see the slide at the top, and then any of the notes that we as the presenter wanted to add can be added in a text box below it. And we can do reading view where we just see the slide itself. Next up is the master views. We can do the slide master, and this tells us what the design is going to look like on the left hand side of each particular slide, and then on the right hand side all we do is just fill in the information. It's like a master template. And then we have title and footers. Then we can edit the theme. If we didn't like this particular theme, we could go back and change the theme if we wanted. And we would see that it changes the format here on the left, and it changes the slide and the coloring on the right. The background deals with the whole background color and design. We can choose a different color scheme if we wanted. We could change the font layout. We could change the effects, the background styles. Maybe instead of doing a gradation, we're going to do a slider gradation or a solid color backing. Then the size group allows us to determine the slide size. And then if we're done working with the master view, we can choose to close it here, and it will take us back to a standard view. Let's go back to normal. So that is the basic tour of the ribbon. The final tab in the top is the one on the far left called the File tab. And if we click on that, it takes us into an area known as the Backstage view. Backstage view. The Backstage view gives us all of the technical information about the PowerPoint presentation. So we can see on the left we kind of have a list of topics. The first one is the info, and it gives us options to protect the presentation, to check for issues, to manage the presentation. It tells us the properties, that we have Current slide number is 1. There's no hidden slides. The title is test text, and that's what I typed into the title slide. It gives me the related dates, when it was last modified, when it was created, when it was last printed, who the author is. This is the particular name of the computer that we're using right now, when it was last modified. So it gives us a lot of the layout in terms of the properties of the file. The new, on the left-hand side, will create a new PowerPoint presentation. If we needed to start another one, we can do that. We can open existing PowerPoint presentations. We can save our current presentation. Now the term save, over here we see save and save as. If we just do save, what that's mostly for is updating an existing PowerPoint presentation. So we've already saved one, it has a file name, we click save and it just updates that, keeps the same file name, all of that. Save as is used when we want to create a brand new presentation and we don't have it saved. We need to create a name, we need to tell the computer where to store it. We'll use the save as for that initial saving of the document. And in addition, we would use save as if we have an existing document, we want to make an update to it, but we want to keep the original as well as the updated version. And then with save as, we would open the existing document, make our modifications, come to the File tab, choose Save As, change the name of the document, and that way we have both the original and the updated document in our file system. Printing allows us to print the document. A lot of times we want to have these handouts for a group so they can follow along. And so we can print these out. To do a simple print, we just click this card right here that says print. If we need multiple copies, we would come here and choose the copy number. Say we need 50 copies because there's 50 people in the presentation. Then we click print and it would print 50 copies of this. We would choose what printer. We can choose whether or not to print all the slides or only the current slide or a custom range of slides. We can also choose how the pages will be printed out. It's currently set to full page slides, but we could do a notes page where the slide shows up at the top and then any of the notes that we put in the presentation will appear down here. We can choose an outline format so they don't actually look at the slide, they see the outline of the text. And we could do multiple slides in a page. This one is 4 slides horizontal. You need to have 1, 2, 3, 4 slides. We can choose to print one-sided or two-sided. Now this option depends on the capabilities of your printer. If you do not have a duplex printer, which means that it has the ability to print on both sides, it'll only give you the one-sided option. We have collated. So this is the page orientation it deals with, whether or not it's an up and down orientation or a left and right. See, with landscape, the long part of the page goes left to right and the short part goes up and down. Portrait is the opposite. The up and down is the longer side, the left and right is the shorter side. And we can choose whether or not we'll do color, grayscale, pure black and white. Once again, that is dependent on the capabilities of your printer. We can choose to share our document, either through email, present it online, save it to the cloud. This typically requires us to have an Office 365 cloud storage called OneDrive. We can choose to export it. If we're doing a video format, we can create it as a video so people can play it back. Otherwise, we can create it as a PDF so that they have the slideshow in a PDF format. And then when we're all said and done, we can close out. And when we do close out, once we've made changes, it asks, do you want to save your presentation? So here we are going to save it because we're going to come back to it in part 2. Going to ask for a name. I'm going to leave it as test text. And I'm going to put it on the desktop because it's going to be the easiest place to find it for the next video. So I have the file name I want, test text. Save the file type as a PowerPoint presentation. And we're going to save it on the desktop. All that looks good. I come over here and I click save. And we can close out the document and we can see right here that we have our PowerPoint presentation saved right on our desktop. So that's it for PowerPoint 2016 Basics Part 1. Here's a summary of everything that we've covered today. We toured the screen. we created and edited a new PowerPoint file, and we learned how to save our document. Once again, this is Instructor Williams, and I would like to thank you on behalf of the Antioch Public Library District. For more technology-related videos and other Antioch Library content, please click the subscribe button.